For the last few years of Football Manager, Hertha Berlin have spent money hand over fist in a bid to try and get success, much like Everton, the club I support in real life. Over the years, though, I've never actually seen them garner any real success with this spending, and now that in real life they're facing like another consecutive relegation battle, we're going to see if we can turn those fortunes around and actually give them something to show for all the money that they put into the club and get the sleeping giant of German football back to the top. Hi everyone, yes, it's TJ here, and I mean, if we just take a quick look at Hertha Berlin's last 20 years, they've had 2 relegations. Last year they stayed up because they beat basically a relatively insipid Hamburg side in the relegation playoff. They got relegated in 2009, 2010 and 2011, 2012. Admittedly, they did bounce back pretty much straight away first both times, but we have to go, their highest finish was in 2017 when they came 6th. We have to go back to 2008-9 where they came 4th, and that would have given them some sort of Champions League football. If we go back as far as when they actually last won the Bundesliga, it was 1931. They won 2 consecutive titles in 1930, 1931. They've never won a DFB Pokal Cup, coming runner-up last time in 1979. Their only real recent success was winning the 2nd division in 2013. If we look at might be in club info in general, maybe, will it show me? I wondered if the editor will it show me an edit club details, transfer clauses, finances. So they've got a lot of money in the bank balance. Sugar Daddy, for example. So he literally is just throwing money at the club. He's just been throwing money at the club over the years. We only have to look at their finances in recent times. Will it show us it here? They might not go back that far, to be fair. Debt-wise, have we got anything in the debt? They've got a net debt of 63.5 million, which probably explains why we have barely got any money to spend. And we can't look at any transfers from previous years. This season, we've spent a grand total of 6 mil. And we managed to sell a few players. Some of that we've done. Some of that was done before we got here. We have to look at the likes of Nicholas Stark, who in recent years have been really good players. Like I remember on FM23, Nicholas Stark being a star player for Arsenal. Arne Meyer was another one. In terms of business that we've done so far, we've sold Davy Selke. He's a bit of a physical beast, but his technical ability left a lot to be desired, really. And he came to us saying he was going to explore his options at the end of his contract, so we sold him for 3 mil. And they've also loaned out Christoph Piatek. And this guy, Omar Alderete, I could have really used him. And the same with Frederick Bjorkan. And even to be fair, I'd go as far as to say Santiago Ascasibar. But unfortunately, they've all left. Same with Jürgen Ekelenkamp and Jordan Troneriga as well. He would have been a very useful player to have. But I think given the fact that they've just spent their money so poorly, they've been forced to get loan players in from Birmingham, for example. And just relied on free signings, including John Joe Kenny from my club Everton, who, says it all really. Just relying on free signings. Everton had a relegation battle last season, same again this season. And they wonder why they're still there. In terms of actual signings we've brought in Laszlo Koulibaly, a 19-year-old from Nordsjælland. He was kind of a sort of replacement for Selke, because we've got our main striker, and then we're basically going to use Koulibaly, and we've got another loan move in the works. And we've also brought in Danny Martin on loan from Betis for a goalkeeper option, because we literally only have one decent goalkeeper, and that is Oliver Christensen, because Rune Jarnstein is retiring at the end of the season, not even at the end of the season, sorry, in November, randomly, so when his contract runs out. And the other guy, Chark Ernst, is nowhere near good enough. You'll notice that we have Kevin Prince Boateng. He is retiring at the end of the season. I really don't see how he's going to fit into our team. He's got some good ability, but the system I'm playing does not really allow for him. And we'll touch on that in a minute. You might notice that I'm being quite speedy here, and that's because the last rebuild we did, the Sassuolo one, was about an hour and 15 minutes long, so I'm trying to speed up and not waffle as much and keep this sort of to like 40-45 minutes. So in terms of the tactic, I kind of do something I don't usually do or try and avoid doing, certainly with rebuilds, and that is creating my own. And that is because the squad is so unbalanced, it is unbelievable. So unbalanced, like I just can't get over it. There is players, honestly, it's a car crash. No wonder they're in a mess. The assistant recommended playing a wing play tactic or route one or a direct counter-attack. Now, for certainly the wing play tactic, I don't really like playing route one or counter-attack in football because in Football Manager, because I just don't find it works well enough whenever I've used it. And I've used it I'm not trying to change it much or anything like that. And I just find it just invites pressure on and you just thrive off like less than 5 chances a game. So I created my own tactic to try and fit in with the players that we have. And I'm hoping that this is just going to be a one-season job and we'll be able to invest in the squad more next season. Just as a disclaimer, I have made myself unsackable, which is kind of what I've done for these rebuilds, and I know a lot of other content creators do as well. So I created this tactic, because the wing play needed wingers, obviously, and our best wingers are Luka Bacchio and Richter. Their crossing is 11. So Stefan Jovetic is going to be thriving off scraps up front because they're not going to be able to play good crosses. So I basically used a tactic which allows me to use inside forwards, and then I've gone for attacking wing backs to provide width. And then basically the midfield is purely just for, in the case of SAVED Serdar, just winning the ball, and for Toussaint just running up and down, just to try and help link up the play. To be fair, Carolero would potentially work as well in this instance, but as the main sort of engine in that midfield, I don't want him to just be limiting himself to the middle of the pitch. I want him to be tracking up and down. And then our defenders, we're going for 3 at the back. This isn't going to be our main defence, I don't think. This is just what was used in the latest friendly. So even with that, it still wants me to play Alderete, but he is not here, as annoying as that is. But I do actually want to see us give some minutes to this guy, Linus Gester, 18 years old, and he already looks better than most centre-halves that we have at the club. And it's going to be this guy, Martin Dardai, on the left, who I'm going to play as a wide centre-back because he actually has got decent ability. But to begin with, I'll start with him on defend because we're going to have Mittelstadt or Plattenhardt. I would be keen to try and get Plattenhardt into the team, but this is what the assistant reckons is the best team, and he is ultimately who's going to be managing the team for this rebuild. So we'll see, because Plattenhardt has just got great crossing and great dead ball ability. So I'm hoping that they will. I can specify that he plays. Don't get me wrong, but I would rather let the assistant do that, because then Plattenhardt's just going to get knackered and he's going to end up getting injured. And Mittelstadt is a good wing back as well, arguably better than Plattenhardt in some ways, and obviously has more longevity given the fact that he's 5 years younger. Pekarik is 35. I don't see him staying as the main go-to right wing back throughout the season. I imagine that Kenny, or there was someone else as well, Zefuik will come in and will sort of displace him or just rotate around quite naturally. Boateng may well get in the midfield, but he doesn't really fit any of the roles that we've got, which seems wasteful for a player of his ability, but equally he's retiring at the end of the season, so I don't want to hang my hat on having him around because he's not going to be here, so I don't want to be relying on him this season. I need to find solutions without him because I have to plan for that, basically. And then we've got Boetius, another good player. I imagine he will rotate in and around on the wings with Ejuke. And then we've got just a few other random players. Some players have got decent potential. He's 24. I don't think we can potentially expect much more from him. In Gankam, we can potentially look at getting more out of. The Reader, he is due to, his contract thing expires at the end of the season, so I'm probably going to check back in January, and with a view to either offering him out on loan, on transfer, or just letting him leave on a free at the end of the season. The other transfer that I did have lined up is I have made a loan bid for Makoko to come in from Dortmund, just to see if he can add a bit of depth up top, because at the moment it's literally just Jovetic and Koulibaly, I think, are substantial attacking options. This guy, possibly 23, could do a job for us. There's just not really any substantial quality. It's all like what we would class as, if we were in the Premiership, as like championship level quality. And, you know, that's kind of where they're heading in real life at the moment and where they've been heading recently. So with that, we're going to sim on. They want us to get to the quarterfinal of the cup and finish mid-table in the Bundesliga. So we'll just have to see how we get on really at the end of the day, won't we? And just hope that the squad has enough about it, and just have to hope that this tactic can do the job, and just keep us stable for this season, and see how we get on. Well, everyone, the first season has ended here at Hertha Berlin, and it's gone, I guess, how I would have kind of expected it to go, given the state that the club is in. Some of us might be thinking, well, you just plug in whatever, gegenpress or whatever you want to do, and you should just win. But obviously we don't want to do that because that's not very realistic. I could have easily downloaded a game-breaking tactic as well and tried to win the game. I jumped in the January. The tactic that we had seemed to be working okay, but we weren't really I think we'd won like 2 or 3 games by before the winter break or something. So I tried for a 4-4-2 diamond to allow me to get Moukoko in and Jovetic. Jovetic was doing okay. He didn't have a great season. He was doing reasonable before the break, basically, and then Moukoko started playing more and alongside him, and he actually had quite a decent season in the end. Don't get me wrong, he's not pulling up any trees with the numbers, but he's doing well in a very poor team, as shown by the fact that he is 4-star in this team and for the league. And I wouldn't necessarily say he's got great technicals and his physicals are coming along nicely, but he's certainly nowhere near the finished article yet. I think it's unlikely we'll be able to keep hold of him, but we can certainly try and see if we can get another loan deal for him. Obviously, we're losing Boateng, but this is what we ended up with. There's a lot of unhappy lines in the midfield. De Reeder is leaving at the end of the season. I'm just going to let his contract run out. He's not good enough by our coaching standards, according to our coaches, for this level of league. Although they've changed it now to say he's a decent player for most Bundesliga sides. But he's 32, and I don't really think there's any tangible benefit in keeping him around. Luka Toussaint is wanted. Aramovic is wanted, Zefuik is wanted, and Christensen is also wanted. We did, has this Kempf and Kenny, okay. We did do some transfers in the January, let me just quickly show you. So we sold, who did we sell? I think it was mainly just loans. We sold Richter because we weren't playing a tactic that sort of was suiting him, so we sold him, get some money for him. Groningen took Gekter on loan. He did okay, and Koulibaly wasn't playing much. We loaned him out to Go Ahead Eagles. He did well out on loan at Go Ahead Eagles. He's developed a bit more for us. In terms of incomings, we brought in Trilli from Deportivo La Coruña for a very small amount of money. A new right back, basically young. He's going to be better than like John Joe, and Pekarik is leaving as well. So it made sense to try and get someone in who can potentially become the number 1 right back for us for a good couple of seasons until we find someone who's like elite. We brought in Marvin Friedrich just because he was a better defender than anyone that we had at the time. And we also brought in Maximilian Philipp on loan from Wolfsburg. He did okay, 2 goals. He was basically, I just brought him in as a rotation option, to be honest with you. But yeah, so as you can see, we came 14th. No relegation playoff for us this year, which is kind of what looks like it's going to happen this season after the same thing happened last season. The board weren't happy, understandably, and I think if it wasn't for the fact that we'd made ourselves unsackable for the purpose of this rebuild, we would have been sacked by now. But obviously we're not. See, F. They're not happy because we didn't get mid-table and we didn't reach they wanted us to get the quarterfinal at the Pokal, which we didn't do. I think we got knocked out just before. But this is the whole point of the rebuild, is we're not managing the team per se. We're taking a more sort of step back approach and just letting signings and things do the job. So I haven't got my budget yet for next season, but there will be some players here that we will look to move on, definitely. And we will try and cash in on them and boost our budget. I think I am going to stick with this tactic for now, potentially. Otherwise, it'll be maybe like a 4-3-3, but a vertical tiki-taka, potentially. I think I want to try this. It'd be easy for me to do what worked with Sassuolo, so a 4-3-3 gegenpress, but I want to sort of try and mix things up and keep things sort of quite fresh, really, and not just go for the obvious, easier tactics, which we know have worked over the years. So I think we'll stick with this for now and see how we get on. So I'm going to go and do some transfers, try and strengthen this squad, and I'll get the scouts out looking. All right, everyone, I think we've pretty much done all of our business already, and we're barely halfway through June. We've got given £40 million worth to spend in the transfer budget, and we have moved fast to bring some players in. Danny Martin, we already knew was joining. That was done as part of his loan deal. We signed this guy on a free in the summer, Liam Morrison, just someone who's coming in from Bayern Munich on a free signing to either develop into a decent defender or someone we can sell on for instant profit. The one bit of business we're waiting on is Julian Ryerson, who has recently just joined Dortmund in real life. He's a right back, someone to add a bit of depth there. He had a 1.8 million relegation release clause in his contract because Union Berlin got relegated. Comes to midfield, which we're playing 4 midfielders. We need plenty of quality and plenty of depth. So we've brought in Gordon Duath from Salzburg, someone just to hopefully who's going to be our main sort of defensive mid going forwards. Guga, this is an interesting one, a little bit random from my part. In October of last year, went to see Benfica Rio Ave in Lisbon. I mean, that wasn't the reason why I went to Lisbon. I went to Lisbon for a sort of friend's stag party, and we went to Benfica game. He played for Rio Ave, and he was class. He was arguably one of the better players on the pitch, and he scored a wonderful goal. So I've always kept an eye out for him, and I actually think he could do a job for us. Kefren Turam is coming in from Brighton. Brighton got relegated from the Premier League, so he's going to come in and probably be one of our main go-to midfielders. Azadine Unahi, I actually secured his signing in the January, but Angers weren't prepared to sell him in the January, so he's joining at the end of the season. And then we move into more sort of like our attacking options. So Jonas Wind is coming in from, Jonas Wind is coming in from Wolfsburg. As is Marcos Leonardo coming in from Santos, and Amin Sarr is coming in from Heerenveen, one of them. So they are potentially going to be our new 2 main strikers. We did activate Jovicic's option to extend his contract by 1 more season. So that is something that's happening. So he's just going to stick around for a bit more depth for as well. Hopefully Sarr and Leonardo develop and sort of build up a bit of momentum. In terms of outgoings, Christensen is leaving, Rogel is leaving. These are the main sales anyway. John Joe Kenny is leaving, as is Wilfred Kanga, and I want to say someone else has left as well. Oh yeah, Jean-Paul Boetius, and Lee Dong-jun is also left as well. So just trying to raise a bit of funds and try and clear up some space. Once I get to a point where I can then pick the best 11, I will jump back in for that just to show you that, and then we will get cracking for the next season. Hi everyone, we're just about to start season 2. I think we're literally like a week away from the cup game, and our team is ready to go. I think this is how it looks at the moment. This is what the assistant is suggesting is our go-to 11. So they're suggesting Amin Sarr as our advanced forward. This is the guy we signed from Heerenveen in the Netherlands. Advanced forward. He didn't cost us much, to be fair. I think he cost us like 5 mil, 6.25 mil. That was like in total. That does include the instalment package. He had a decent season in the Netherlands last season, with Leonardo as our deep lying forward on support. So I must admit, I kind of envisaged Vind being the deep lying forward, with then Sarr or Leonardo being the advanced forward. But we'll see. This is just what the assistant's recommending at the moment. That might well change as the season goes on. And then we've got Alderete, who was out on loan last season. He's basically like a new signing because he is instantly like one of our top 2 defenders alongside Friedrich. Who is he wanted by at the moment? Cologne and Hoffenheim. He's going to stay. So basically what we've done is new goalkeeper, new right back, who was a steal at 1.8 mil. Easily absolute steal. although he is going to be suspended for the first game. New defender in Friedrich. Alderete, like I said, is basically like a new centre-half. Mittelstadt is staying in. Toussaint is going to stay in for now. Then we've got Gorna Duath and Turan, our new midfielders. And then obviously all this is brand new as well. And then we've got Trilly, who can come in for Riasson. And then we've also got, where is he? Zefuik or Zefauk, I don't know, as a backup right back, with Asasabar, who is likely going to be leaving, or was that Askasabar? He's just accepted a bid from Schalke with an option to buy after like 10 games. Guga is our other rotation option for midfield, and then we've got Piatek back off loan. Martin Dardai, is another option to play in defence with Kempf. And who else? Koulibaly is probably going to go out on loan again, as is Gekter. We've got Fredrik Bjorkan, who can also play at left wing back, along with Plattenhardt. And Serdar and Aramovic are other rotation options for the midfield and the defence respectively. And I think, to be honest with you, I think that's as good as we're going to get at the moment, and I'm quite happy with that. I think with us shifting to this sort of more four-man midfield and central midfield, obviously this was the priority, it was strengthening here. Right, I'll get going, everyone. I'll see you soon. So season 2 has finished, and while our league performance was better than last season, nothing particularly to write home about, we did actually come runners-up in the DFB Pokal in the German Cup. We lost on extra time to Borussia Dortmund. Julian Brandt scoring the winner in the 120th minute. So close to going to penalties. I mean, when you look at the stats of the game, we actually had more shots. We had a similar XG, well, identical XG. But we had more possession. So, and then you look at the match momentum. We were arguably the dominant team. I mean, when you look at some of our other results over the course of the season, we didn't start great at all. We lost 4-1 to Leverkusen and 2-1 to Munich. But then we beat Eintracht, Freiburg, Dusseldorf, Hoffenheim, Hanover, Freiburg again, Mainz, Dusseldorf again. And then we just sort of petered out for draws. Basically, I think our last win in the league came in February, and then we drew all bar 3 games after that. So we arguably could have finished higher if we'd have been a little bit more clinical in front of goal. Maybe if we'd managed to sort of turn a lot of those draws into wins, we probably could have done a lot better. But getting to the final of the cup is no mean feat, and I think we can take a lot of encouragement from that. I would hope that with that means that the tactic is becoming a little bit more, basically it's starting to work a bit more. Our top performers this season, as you can see, Kefren Turam, we managed to secure him on a new contract because he was attracting interest. Mittelstadt doing really, really well. Marvin Friedrich was doing really well, but he was unhappy about a failed promise or something. I don't really know what. But we're going to sell him in the summer. I can't afford to have him kicking up stink and interfering with how the game and how our performance goes. Marcus Leonardo winning 14 goals and 5 assists. Gorna Duath also wanted, but I think we potentially managed to. I think we might have got him down to a new contract, or we're in the process of doing so. Vind had a really good season. He played as a number 10. He did really well, as did Amin Sarr. One thing that I did notice was that Piatek started coming in over Sarr a little bit more, which is a bit frustrating. But we are selling Piatek anyway. And who else is leaving? Plattenhardt wanted to leave on a free at the end of the season. He wanted a new challenge, so we thought that's fine. Bjorkan wasn't happy about his lack of game time, but he is probably going to get more game time now. As he's going to be the main sort of backup to Mittelstadt. Martin Dardai, is also going to leave. Danny Martin is going to stay, hopefully. Omar Alderete is also wanted, but I think we managed to tie him down to a new contract as well. So yeah, Jovetic is retiring. Maulida and Redan are leaving. Kempf is leaving. Zefuik is leaving as well, or he wants to leave. And otherwise, I think that's it in terms of the outgoings we can expect. I've already got some transfers sorted for the next season. They're obviously just not arrived yet, so we'll touch on them once we've got them here in the club and we can see how they fit into our current tactic. So everyone, this is our transfer business for this season. We had a few outgoings, as touched on. Friedrich and Piatek have left, as has Jesic and Gankem, Marlida, Dardai, Mark Oliver Kempf, Dodi Lukabakio left on a free, which was, when you look at his attributes, you might think, oh, well, is that a bit of a waste? But he with the system we play in, he wasn't getting in ahead of any of our attackers. Asak Askabar also left. I was a bit annoyed to realise that this guy, Bent Dardai, left on a free to Dortmund. 18-year-old, looks like it could have potentially been a really good number 10 for us, although the scouts aren't really rating him that highly. In terms of incomings, we kicked things off with signing Marash Kambula, a centre-half who was available from Ajax for, I would say, a relatively cheap fee considering his ability. So he comes in basically as probably one of our main centre-halves, alongside Tanguy Nianzou, who joined us for 13 million from Sevilla. And I think that's an absolute steal, really, for someone of his ability. So with him, Alderete, and then we've got the backups in Gester and, who's the other guy? Juramovic is our other backup centre-half. He is probably going to leave maybe in a couple of seasons when his contract expires. I can't really sell him to get much value for him, so he'll probably just stick around. And then in a bid to add some quality into that number 10 spot, we brought in Pablo Torre, from, I think he was still at Barcelona, where he'd gone from Racing de Santander. We signed him for 17.25 mil, which I think, again, is a really good bit of business. And he's basically going to come in and be our main number 10, hopefully. And that will allow us to play Vin slightly higher up. And then speaking of strikers, we saw that this guy, Luis Suarez from Red Bull Salzburg, was available for like 5.25 mil release clause. Now, he is someone who, whenever I've seen him in previous Football Managers, he's always been like amazing. Like, he always bags like 25 plus goals a season pretty much wherever he seems to be at. So that does have the desired effect that I wanted, really, in that pushes up Vint into that deep line forward support role, and Torre goes in as the number 10 with Thuram, Toussaint and Gorna Duath making up the rest of the midfield. And then we've got Rierson, Kumbula, Alderete and Mittelstadt making up the back four with Danny Martin sitting in front. And it means that our squad is now like quite nice and trim. We've got a perfect sort of 24-man squad. I expect that people like Unahi, who weren't that happy with their sort of playing time last season, will probably get more rotation in this season. I don't really want to sell him yet. I feel like we've not really seen enough of him to sort of make a substantial judgment on him. I think he can be a perfectly good rotation option for us. I would expect him to get buffed after the next transfer update, after his really good World Cup performance. Although, bear in mind, he has just moved in real life. I want to say Marseille. He wasn't with Napoli, but he's gone to Marseille. I completely forgot to mention this guy, Philip Bungard, is someone we signed. A young striker, sort of striker / number 10, who was hopefully going to provide a little bit of depth in and around that number 10 role over Torre. I think pretty sure I pronounced his name about 4 different ways since we started this video. But yeah, I think we've got a really good team on our hands now, and one that will hopefully achieve the board's sort of wishes, which is a top half finish and reaching the quarter-final of the Cup. Now, obviously, we got to the final last time, so hopefully we can go on better and win it. Is this a season we're going to break the top half? Who knows, we might even be able to sneak into Europa League. Hey everyone, so Season 3 has ended, and going from on the verge of being sacked to having our job untouchable, because we came second in the league, just 9 points behind winners Bayern Munich. We got knocked out by Borussia Dortmund in the quarterfinals of the Cup. That's twice they've beat us in a row in this competition now. Once at the final and once at the quarterfinal. But the big thing is coming second in the league, 1 point ahead of Dortmund, 3 points ahead of Leipzig, 5 points comfortably in those Champions League spots. So, how did we get there? Well, we were helped by, once again, Kefren Thuram. He is now turning into a real elite central midfielder for us. And he is wanted still by Juventus. You'll notice a couple of new names here, and we'll touch on that in a minute. Pablo Torre had a great breakout season for us, 19 goal contributions from 37 appearances. Florentino Luis, he was a new signing in the January. We'll touch on that. We brought him in from Bayern Munich for 27 mil. Yeah, he had a great season for us in there. Marcus Leonardo is wanted by some big teams. He has turned into an absolute demon, I would say, in that advanced forward role. 4.5 star rated for us. The assistant still keeps wanting to play him as a deep lying forward because we did lose Jonas Wind in the summer, in the January, because was it Bayern Munich, I think, came in and hit his release clause. So he ended up going to Bayern Munich. He's on massive wages there compared to what he was on with us. And did he actually do anything? To be fair, that's including this season. 4 goals in 10 appearances, 6 in the league, 6 goals in 16 appearances, all comps. We also loaned out Amin Sarr and Leander Pop, a youngster. Philip Bungard was also loaned out because he was moaning about not getting the game time. But you'll notice Gordon Duath left in the summer for a steal, absolute steal. So as we touched on, he was on the verge of signing a new contract. Just as we were about to sign on the dotted line, Barcelona come in, hit his release clause of 14.25 mil, and let's face it, absolutely waste him over there in Catalonia. And their season hasn't finished yet, but they didn't even win. So they robbed us of a decent, really good prospect and not even made the most of him. So that meant that we had a couple of holes in our squad because we also lost Omar Alderete. We chose not to replace him at this stage, to be fair. Again, that was another release clause. He was on the verge of signing a new contract and then he decided to go to Spurs. We brought in Florentino Luis from Bayern Munich, as touched on. We brought in Mateus Cunha from Atleti, I think, was it? Yeah. He was available for 11 million and he had a really good season for us. 5 goals and 2 assists. Mainly playing as a 10, but sometimes playing as a deep lying forward. And we also brought in Jason Van Duiven, I'm not sure. Basically to eventually become our next deep lying forward. So that's what he's working on at the moment. But a really good, solid season for us. Let's just look at the rest. Luis Suarez got a relatively decent return. But a good overall match rating for the season. Same with Marash Kumbula. Luka Toussaint also doing really well. Mittelstadt doing really well too. Nianzou having a solid first season. In terms of outgoings, Bjorkan is leaving on a free at the end of the season. He has played a fair few times, but he just wasn't happy with playing second fiddle. So we're in the market for a new left back, someone to play as a backup to Mittelstadt. Unahi also is just not getting the game time that I thought he would do, so he will probably leave. Same with Guga, and Trilly is someone who I'm really getting a little bit worried is just going to peter out into nothing. We signed him at the age of 19, and I thought he could be a really good player, but he's just not breaking into that sort of number 1 right back slot. I could obviously stipulate that he plays all the time, but I don't really want to have to do that if I can avoid it, because then he's just going to end up knackered. Danny Martin, did I just see? Our goalkeeper's been given the number 7. Okay, that's interesting. He might be someone we eventually look to upgrade upon. Maybe not this season, if not the season after. But we have got a decent transfer budget. So in terms of incomings, we've not got anything sorted yet. But we will certainly look into seeing what we can do with the positions that we want. So like I said, I wouldn't mind a new left back just to cover for Mittelstadt. And if we look at the squad, this is what the best squad is at the moment. So it's Luis, Thuram and Serdar in the midfield with Cunha up front, Leonardo and Suarez in front of him. Like I said, really, Leonardo needs to be playing as an advanced forward. That is his strongest role. So I'll certainly be looking to try and make that happen. With Juranovic as our number one right back over Ryerson, but I think that's just because he's maybe just not fully fit yet at the moment, so they're just picking him because of that. Bjorkan is in because Mittelstadt was just coming back from an injury, I think, and then obviously Torre is injured, otherwise he would usually be there as well. So our squad is really quite thin, so we're going to be looking to try and add some depth. That's going to be the main thing we try and do as we look to assault the league for season 4 and see if we can get a little bit closer to Bayern Munich. But obviously, we've got the Champions League to look forward to, so we'll just have to see how we get on. I've also just noticed that Torre led the way in the assists, which is always nice to see. And Danny Martin came 3rd for clean sheets. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Right, everyone, I've got some transfers to do. I'll see you at the start of season 4 as we look to see how our squad is shaping up for the season ahead. Welcome everyone to the start of season 4, and we're actually kicking our season off today with a Super Cup game against Bayern Munich, because not only did Bayern win the league, they also won the German Cup. So that means that as we came second, we have an early shot at some silverware before we play Karlsruhe in the Pokal, before kicking our season off with an away trip to Gladbach. Now, at the end of season 3, we said we were going to aim to work on our squad depth, and I really think we have managed to do that. So with 87 million spent, 2.3 million out with the sale of Unahi, that is likely to increase in terms of outgoings. Luis Suarez is currently under offer of like 8.75 mil, which was his release clause that when he signed last season. We offered him a new contract, and he was prepared to die on a hill of 4,000 per week, less than what he wanted. And so he is probably going to leave, which is going to allow us to bump up our wage budget, because we are currently in the negative on that, with the view to us then hopefully offering Marcos Leonardo a new contract. With a couple of free transfers left as well. Bjorkan, we knew was leaving anyway, as was Schwolo. The keeper, is there anything else that happened that we need to look at? No, that was fine, not from last season. So in terms of this season, we could have bought Luca Netz, but Gladbach wanted like 39 million or something. And Tom Roth, I don't know, was available from Dortmund for, as you can see, like basically just under half of that price. And then with the money we saved, we were able to buy out Thiago Almada, who basically is going to come in alongside Albert Sambi Lokonga as a midfield depth option. Someone who can hopefully give us a bit more quality when we need to turn to our subs. Danny Carvajal was available on a steal, really. He's still a decent player. Pace maybe on the wane a little bit, but his mentals are phenomenal. And he's someone who can come in and do... Well, he's actually coming in as our number 1 right back now over Ryerson. But again, just gives us a bit more depth. Same with the signings of Bornau and Maximilian Werber, coming in from Wolfsburg and Salzburg respectively. Again, Bornau, I've just done a quick check on the squad, and he is actually displacing Nianzou from our number 1 sort of right-sided centre-half role. So we will see what happens there. And then keeper-wise, we only had one keeper with Schwolo leaving in Danny Martin. So we brought in Altay Bayındır for 11 million from Wolves. We didn't really spend big on anyone, to be honest with you, except for Maxi Werber. And we managed to really sort of improve the depth of the squad, I would say quite drastically. Because now if we look at, say if we just go to tactics screen, we've now got a good range of subs available. Guga I didn't realise he'd done his cruciates last season, so he's out. Amin Sarr is also under a loan bid from Cologne with an option to buy, so I'm expecting him to leave, so that will free up more wages. But as it is, this is currently the best 11. But yeah, obviously we've got a lot to build on. We've got the Champions League to look forward to. They want us to reach the semi-final of the Pokal, qualify for the Champions League, be competitive in the Champions League, and just don't be outclassed in the Super Cup. I think that's all very reasonable. Obviously, last season we came second in the league with a starting 11 which is basically unchanged from that, but just with better depth. So hopefully, logically, it can only get better. So I will see you all at the end of Season 4. Well, everyone, Season 4 has ended, and it's Champions League again. We came third. This time we were quite a way off the top 2. It was a sort of clear 2-horse race between Munich and Dortmund. Our Achilles heels was draws. I mean, when you look, we drew 5 more games than the top 2. We only lost 1 more than Dortmund, 2 more than Bayern, but it was the draws that killed us. Like that 2-0 with Dortmund, 2-0 with Freiburg, 1-0 with Wolfsburg, 0-0 with Darmstadt. All teams, like especially like from Darmstadt down. Well, to be fair, apart from Dortmund, we should have been easily winning all of those games, given how well we've been playing. I think it was ultimately our ability to score goals which has let us down. When you looked at our top scorer in the league was Leonardo with 13. We were runners up in the Super Cup, knocked out in the third round by Dortmund. I think that's 3 successive years. We lost them in the final in the second season, quarter final in the third season, in the third round this time. Champions League, the competition is finished. We're currently in the 17th of June, so it's actually rolled around to the next one. So I'll just show you how we got on in that. So in the league phase, we came 11th. We were actually, level on points with 7th and 8th. They just got in on us over goal difference, which, I think is pretty admirable going, really. And then in the knockout playoff, we got past Porto, beating them 2-1 away from home. Before, it got pretty embarrassing. We got humbled 10-0 across 2 legs by Bayern Munich. But I did notice that we did actually get a little bit of revenge on Bayern Munich later on when we beat them 4-2 at home with Thuram, Suarez and Florentino Luis getting the goals. But it was like, even here, like losing in the league to Cologne, dropping points on games which we should have been winning, really. Like Mainz, we've touched on, Frankfurt, Dortmund obviously proved massive, losing to Bayern Munich as well. Don't get me wrong, I mean, we've taken over a team who, in real life and, especially when the first couple of games we had, we were sort of just about staving off relegation. In the last 2 seasons, we've come 2nd and 3rd, so don't get me wrong, it's not to be sniffed at. But realistically, I think if we want to try and consider this rebuild a success, I want to get to at least... we've been to a cup final. It would be nice to win a trophy. I think getting them back towards the top has been quite nice, winning, challenging for the Champions League spots. And obviously last season, I think we were I can't remember how many points we were behind top of the table. But what is a bit of a problem is that our hands are kind of tied in the transfer budget. I kept going through waiting to see, when are we going to get our transfer budget, and it never came. And then we got a email through saying, the chairperson is scaling back their investment. They're still going to give you money, just not as much as previous. So basically, we got no new wage budget and no new transfer budget. We only had what I had generated myself. The finances are pretty good, and in terms of debt, we've managed to get it down. I can't remember what the debt was in the beginning. It's been a while since I did the first stint of this, but the transfer debt is only 16,000. So the transfer is pretty good. I know we're committed spending more on the wages, but that can be remedied by shifting some money around. We've got a few players possibly leaving as well. Almada wanted to leave. Obviously we signed him last year. And he made 5 sub appearances. He just didn't break into the team over the players we had. So he's unhappy. So rather than having him sitting around unhappy on the bench, I'm actually selling him for 18.25 million. Hopefully he's going to go to Middlesbrough. But there's other clubs interested in him, which, considering the appearance he made, is actually to get a profit on him is really good. As you can see, we bought him for 15 mil. Guga is also on the way out. I think has he agreed terms? Not yet, but we're hoping to get 5 mil for him. Which when we signed him for 3.1 million, and he played a fair bit in the first season, and then in the second season he had cruciate ligament rupture, so he didn't play at all. Amin Sarr is also leaving. We're making quite a substantial loss on him. I think, was it 6.25 mil, but we're still losing him for 3.5 mil. He did okay in his first season, nothing to sort of rave about, but solid, helped us kind of get where we are. In terms of incomings, we've got this guy coming in, Noah Mazzotti. He was a free agent. He looks brilliant. This is just in case anybody wants to carry on the rebuild after I finish with it. I always give you the option of download, me sending you the save file, or if I want to do a part 2 or whatever, then it's always handy to sort of build for that future. One thing we have had is that our director of football has not been signing any of our dev center players at all, so we've got no dev center. I assume it's just because they're all terrible, they've all been awful. He is supposed to, the director of football is supposed to handle all player contracts for youth players and stuff like that for us. So that seems to be a bit of a problem. But what we have been doing is we're hoping to bring in Wisdom Amy for a bit of centre half cover. Young, he's still only 20, so he's definitely got the potential to get better. And we've got Thiago Santos coming in as a new right back to give a bit of competition for Ryerson, because Carvajal has retired. And then we're also bringing in this guy Alan Abando, hopefully from Roma, 20-year-old Ecuadorian striker. again, just someone to try and give us a bit more oomph up front. Because if we look at the squad and if we look at the top performers, so Kefren Thuram, obviously top performer, and then we go down here and then we get to Marcus Leonardo, who only managed 15 goals and 6 assists. Luis Suarez is still here. He got 16 goals and 7 assists. Mittelstadt did really well. Kumbulla did really well. Toussaint did really well. As did Verba and Florentino Luis. But really, we need to get more from these strikers. We really do. Pablo Torre didn't have as good a season this time round. He's wanted by Juve. We've got a few players wanted, to be fair. Sambi Lokonga had a solid contribution, as did Bornau. Leonardo's wanted, but he's got a release clause, I think, of like 100 mil, so they can pay that or go away. Tom Rother wanted. Almada we've touched on. A player who, again, also didn't replay and is wanting to leave is Tanguy Nianzou, so I'm going to look at shifting him on as well. He's a good player to have around, but I don't want to keep him here if he doesn't want to be here. And like I said, he's not really played that much last season. Played quite a bit the first season, but Bornau seemed to kick him out. And then we've got Gexter, who can sort of fill in. And if we bring in Wisdom Amy, then we should be okay. Juranovic is leaving on a free. As is Serdar. He wants to leave, so we can't offer him a new contract. So we're just going to see what happens. Our hands are kind of tied in the transfer sphere, really, in the way of things. So I'm just going to see what we can do and bring in who we can with what we've got. The wage budget is going to be a problem. We're going to have to try and shift some things around, but if we can get rid of a few high earners, it will definitely help. So I will see you. Probably only be in a couple of game weeks because, like I said, once these transfers are done, I'm not going to be doing anything else. Everyone, the transfer business, I think, is done, to be honest with you. We've not got long until the season starts, and this is, with our new signings, on paper, our best 11. Still playing Leonardo as a deep line forward. Don't get why. I know Suarez is decent, but I will be playing Leonardo as the advanced forward with Van Duiven sitting here and Marcus Leonardo there. But for some reason, they love doing it this way around. So we'll see how it goes. Santos comes straight in as the new wing-back, to be fair to him, with Mittelstadt still on the left and Kumbulla and Bornau. And the midfield is kind of as it has been, really, for the last few seasons, with Torres at number 10, Thuram as the Mezzala, Luis in there. He sort of seems to alternate between Carolero and deep line playmaker, and Sambi Lokonga at the moment is the deep line playmaker. So this is one of our signings, Alan Abando, Ecuadorian striker that we signed from Roma. So he's basically just going to be he's a young option just to come off the bench. Most likely for Suarez, he's not going to come in as a deep line forward. He's not good enough in terms of passing. And then Wisdom Amy, still only 20 years of age, plenty of room to develop. And again, he would just be a rotation option for the two centre halves because we did end up selling Almada and Nianzou to Leicester for 9.5, and Almada for 14.75 mil. So a slight loss on Nianzou, pretty much made back what we spent on Almada. But it's a little bit of money in the bank, which helps us hopefully, improve our sort of financial situation. In terms of debt, transfer debt is a little bit higher with the businesses that we've done so far this summer, and I don't foresee us doing any more. So I'm going to crack on and sim this final season here on the Hertha rebuild. On our final season here, we've got our hands on the DFB Pokal. I have had a sneaky little look. We beat Bayern Munich 3-2 in extra time. Now, we were actually 2-0 up at half-time before they pulled it back to 3-2. We will watch the goals. And it was a hat-trick from Pablo Torre that got us the win. And he was someone who, when I looked in on January, because we made a couple of signings, was being linked with like moves to some pretty big teams. I think Inter, Juve maybe, and maybe Man United were sort of floating around as well. But we managed to keep hold of him. And Sadio Mane pulled him on back before, I think it was Gabriel Vidovic, got the second. And I'm so glad that I wasn't managing this properly, because I think I would have been spitting at this point. But then it was a penalty from Pablo Torre in the 114th minute to get us hat-trick and to get us the trophy. So, good bit of success there. We got knocked out on penalties, I saw, in the Champions League by PSG. Yeah, we beat them 1-0 away, I think it was, before losing 2-1 at home. And then, as I said, then getting knocked out on penalties. You know what? I don't think there's a huge amount of shame in that. Don't get me wrong, I would have liked a better Champions League run at some point during this rebuild. But I think to have gotten to PSG and then to lose on penalties, I think is a very admirable performance. I've just seen that West Ham dumped out last year's winners, Milan, in the knockout playoff round. Yeah, we beat Roma 7-6 in the playoff after we came 20th or something in the league phase. We actually got that 20th, beating United 4-2 at home. We had a few other sort of decent results along the way. I think I saw we beat Bayern Munich. Yeah, we beat Bayern Munich 2-0. But then we had a few times where we really slipped up. Mönchengladbach, you might think this, losing 4-1 at home, away to Gladbach. They actually won the league, to be fair to them. But it's results here, losing 1-0 to Wolfsburg in December, losing to Hamburg twice. What else? Losing here to Bremen. Results like this is what's cost us this real title charge, to be honest with you, this season. Because we came fourth, so second season I think we came second. Third season we came second, fourth season third, and now we've come fourth. So we are tumbling down a little bit, but we're still getting there, which is the most important thing. But you can see we're quite a way off the numbers that the top three are putting up, which is a bit disappointing. But what we have done is we have managed to turn Hertha, I would say, into a consistent top four challenging team now. That's 3 seasons in a row where we've got in the top four. And, we've had 2 Champions League campaigns and we've got to the round of 16 both times. So obviously, next step is obviously to build on that. And how are we going to do that? Well, what have we left them with? So if we look at the performers this season, Danny Martin actually played over Altay Bayindir, which I find quite shocking. New signing Thiago Santos had a fairly solid first season with 4 assists, and Marash Kambula played the most out of the centre halves, with Bornau weighing in with sort of, I think him and Amy basically split. Wisdom Amy played more really, and then we had Mittelstadt having a good return. We had Florentino Luis, who he's wanted, I think, by Atletico. Oh no, he's now wanted by Barcelona. Thuram again, 20 goal contributions. You'll notice Xaver Schläger, because we signed him in the January. Pablo Torre had a really good season again. So did Van Dalven. He's wanted by Arsenal now. Torre's wanted by Newcastle, Spurs, and PSG. Marcus Leonardo had probably his best season that he's had so far in all comps. Which, when we look at what he's done for us before, he's had his best return in terms of goals and assists, I think, this season. So I'm sure, he'll be wanted again by big teams. And then in terms of signings, we signed Paul Pogba and we signed Xaver Schläger. Now, our scouting team strongly recommended them both, Xaver Schläger and Paul Pogba. Pogba, he is older now. He's 34 now. When we signed him, he was 33. But Juve wanted 4 mil for him because his contract was running out and they needed to free up space. And I thought, you know what, he's still got a lot of quality, he's still got a lot to give for us, I think. So he was someone who I thought, even though his star rating relative to the rest of the squad isn't the best, I thought he's someone who could, be a decent rotation option for us and, bring a bit of quality off the bench. But by all accounts, he made 17 starts and I think, that just shows really that he had a big part to play in what happened in the rest of the season. Xaver Schläger, 9 starts, 8 subs, 9 assists. Can't really go wrong there. Sambi Lokonga also having a really sort of solid season for it, considering he's just a squad player rotation option. He's wanted by Madrid. Ryerson, he has basically been shunted out due to Thiago Santos. Luis Suarez, he wasn't doing anything really. In January he wanted to leave because he wasn't getting his game time, but his stats were shocking. in January he had 1 goal and 1 assist from 13 starts, so that was why he wasn't starting. Wisdom Amy, as we've touched on, he played a lot. Max Weber, he had a decent season considering he's obviously spent some of it injured. And there's like even players like Mateus Cunha, who's 13 starts, 32 sub appearances, 9 goals, 3 assists. There's definitely a decent spine here for the future with Thuram and Torre, and even if they can keep hold of Van Duyven and Marcus Leonardo. Marish Kambula is 27 now. He's a solid defensive option. I think he could easily stay and turn into the mainstay of that defensive lineup until he probably retires if he wanted to. Same with Florentino Luis. He could stay around for a while, and I don't think his game time would ever dip. But it's whether that happens, really. As we touched on with the Sassuolo save, I think what I probably would consider doing is revisiting this, maybe just doing like another 3 or 5 seasons and seeing if we can get more of a title challenge or maybe even just win the league. Obviously with Sassuolo, we were sort of finishing in the top 4 and top 6 sort of quite consistently. But what we have to think, I think what we do have to remember though with this team is, even though we've only won the 1 trophy, this is a team who have been battling relegation up until we started this rebuild, and even in the first season we came 16th, and second season was it 12th or 14th or something. It was only really in the third season when we then came second that we sort of really turned into a team that can push for the top 6. And obviously as it is, we've got Champions League 3 years in a row now. Just out of interest, let's see what is the best 11 looking like at the moment, and it is Leonardo, Van Duyven, Van Dalven, Torre, Thuram, Schläger, Luis, Santos, Bonau, Kumbula, Mittelstadt, and Danny Martin. And yeah, no space in there for Altay Bayindir, who I would say, who on paper, attributes-wise, is a better standout keeper than Danny Martin. Danny Martin is just all-round average, really. I don't get how he's playing over Bayindir, but he was part of a DFB Pokal winning team this season, so hats off to him. I hope you have enjoyed the rebuild, everyone. And I've got plans to do more. I'm going to be looking at doing like an Anderlecht one, a Cruzeiro one, which we've touched on. Cruzeiro actually got promoted last year, because their season runs something like February, March to November. So when FM23 came out, I'm pretty sure they will start in League 2, or the Brazilian equivalent of the Sky Bet Championship. I'd be interested to see whether with the winter update, whether they then end up being promoted. I don't know how SI approach those sort of things, but yeah, they won the 2nd division, so they will actually be a champion, like a Brazilian Premiership team, as of this year. I think their season probably starts soon. Was it 23rd of Feb? So pre-season probably starting soon. And so I'll be interested to see how that works out when I do the rebuild, once I wait for the winter update to come out for that one. But yeah, let me know if there's anything else you want to see. There's a few other teams out there who I think are in need of a rebuild. But you guys watch it. Who do you want to see me rebuild? Do you want to see me pick someone a bit obscure, like someone from Hungary or Romania, like Steaua Bucharest won the Champions League in, what was it, like 80? Let's find out. Was it 84? They beat Barcelona. Let's see. 85, 86. Can we get them back up there? Who knows? That's the challenge, I suppose, isn't it? But I mean, when you look here, it's like Chelsea won it twice. Obviously they won it in real life and they won it there. Man City still haven't won it. PSG did finally win it. But otherwise, it's, Porto. Do we do like a Porto rebuild? See if we can turn them into a Champions League winning team. That could be a shout. Do we take a Dutch team? Not Ajax, obviously. But do we take someone like a PSV or a Feyenoord or someone like that? Or Twente? Remember Steve McLaren won the league with them and then sort of vanished. There's all sorts we could try. Valencia. I think a lot of people have done Valencia rebuilds, though, to be fair, so probably not. But yeah, Obviously, let me know. Let me know what you guys want to see, and I will do my best to deliver. I hope you have enjoyed this rebuild, everyone, and I will see you for the next one. Bye for now.